Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Victoria Online. My name is Carrie Hunter, and I'm the Spiritual Director of the Center. If you've been with us before, you already know that. And if you are new to this, you can also come and join us live on Sundays at our location at 380 Cook Street in Victoria. We'd love to see you there. I'm beginning a new series today, a series that is based upon one of the books of the prolific author Alan Cohen. And I'm an old friend of Alan's and a really great fan of his work. He's written many beautiful books, and he's just a really loving individual. Those of you who know him know that he lives on the big island of Hawaii. He recently moved there from the island of Maui, where he had lived for many, many years, and that's where I first met him. He recently sent a box of books to be distributed among the people in our congregation. And I thought, well, what a good time to really talk about one of his books. It's called I Had It All the Time. And of course, we all have it all the time within us. It's just that we often forget that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. And my talk today is entitled Original Innocence. Original Innocence. Something that we probably don't think of very often. We're probably more apt to think about original sin because many of us grew up with that. But I'm going to take us now to the island or islands of Bali. One of my daughters was there a couple of years ago teaching a yoga teacher's training at a retreat there. And she and her husband came back just raving about Bali, saying that it was just the most beautiful place and that the people were absolutely extraordinary. They were so happy and just always joyful and loving and kind in every way. And Alan talks about this in his book. And I really loved the way that he described it because he said the people of Bali have always maintained this original innocence, that they have within them spirit and they recognize that spirit is within them, not somewhere out there, not some external thing. And he talks about when a Balinese baby is born and how the parents don't let that baby's feet touch the ground for 150 days. That's almost 5 months. Think about that. And the reason they don't is that they believe that babies are gifts from heaven, that they are angels from heaven, and that it would be much too shocking to put them on the ground immediately, that it's something that they need to kind of get used to. And so when the baby is 5 months old, there is a ceremony and a celebration, spiritual ceremony, welcoming the baby to the earth itself. So for the first 5 months, there's that basking in the glory of all of the love and all of the devotion of parents and of loved ones, of friends and family, which is not uncommon for most of us when we have new babies. But do we look at those babies as being spiritual beings? I know it's not the way that I was raised. But in Bali, it's a whole different thing. These babies are looked upon as gifts from spirit right from the beginning. And the thing is that they grow up with that. And so, of course, as adults, they know that they come from spirit and that everything they do has a spiritual meaning to it. Everything that they do comes from spirit itself. And it really determines a lot about the way that they live their lives. For us in the West, that's a very uncommon thing. It's something that we have really no understanding about or have had no understanding about. Original innocence is what I'm talking about here. I mean, if we did, we would see the face of God in everyone that we met along the way. And that's not really the case. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I grew up in a faith tradition where we were taught that we were born of original sin, the sin of our parents who conceived us, and at the age of 3 weeks or somewhere around that time that we needed to be baptized or christened to remove that sin from us. What a different concept from being looked upon as a little angel gift from God. And so I think that begins to tarnish us as we're growing up. If we're told this story that we were baptized or christened because of original sin, when we are told that we are sinners, when we are told that if we don't repent that we're going to burn in hell or whatever the punishment is going to be, it really puts a lot of guilt and shame within us, whether or not we need to own that. It's there. And it is so unnecessary because it's also untrue. I think most of you probably know that the word sin comes from the Greek word which means missing the mark, and the word repent means to try again. Isn't that different from the way that you learned it as a child? Certainly is different from the way that I learned it as a child. Very, very different. And so when we talk about sin, if we realize that, it's about making a mistake, but we're not going to be punished for our mistakes. We just try it again. We start from the beginning. We do it better the next time around. Whole different concept altogether. The thing that we need to remember is that we're a lot more than we think we are. If we're going around thinking of ourselves as not being good enough, as that we should really be ashamed of certain things that have been done to us or that we have done to ourselves or to others, if we feel guilty, any of those things, then we're not living as spiritual beings. And it's a really, really unhealthy way for us to live. Western culture is simply different from a few of the other cultures in the world, and we don't often stop to think about that. The Hawaiian culture also looks at babies in a different way. When a baby is born in Hawaii, the baby is considered to be a bowl of light. Don't you love that? A bowl of light. A beautiful little bowl of light, bowl of God, bowl of spirit. How different our lives would be if we thought of ourselves that way, not just as babies and as little children, but always. And the Hawaiians teach that as babies, as children go on in life, that they pick up rocks that they put in their bowl. Those rocks could be anger, could be lack of forgiveness, could be jealousy, could be guilt, could be hatred, could be any number of things, could be shame. And each rock occupies space in the bowl. And so, of course, what happens is you can't see the light for the rocks. Or maybe if they're just a few rocks, you can only see a little bit of light or half the light. But what an interesting concept. And so the idea is that in order to be pure and innocent, that one needs to get rid of the rocks that they're carrying around. And that's a wonderful metaphor for our lives here in the West, too. If we're carrying around feelings that are negative about others or about our own lives or about anything around us, then they're kind of like having rocks that are blocking our light from others. And we need to do something about that. So what do we do? You may think that's a really difficult thing to do, but honestly, I can tell you from experience it can be done with such ease and such grace. And it is so simple. In our teaching in Science of Mind, we know that prayer works. We have a special kind of prayer that we use. It doesn't mean that all prayer doesn't work, but this particular kind of prayer is called Affirmative Prayer, sometimes called Spiritual Mind Treatment, and it is really powerful. And I was thinking about this yesterday as I was driving and remembering times when it has worked in my life, at times where I wasn't expecting anything, at times where I wasn't asking for something specific. And I'm thinking about an individual who was in my life at that time who, whenever I was around her, just simply never acknowledged me. It was like I didn't even exist. It didn't matter if I tried to start a conversation or not. She would just kind of disappear and talk to someone else. And sometimes if I were hosting something and she was invited, she just simply wouldn't show up. And I had the feeling that she really didn't like me. It wasn't a matter of that I was a minister and that she felt intimidated by that. Not at all. I just felt like she didn't like me. And being very unministerial, I didn't like her much either, which didn't help the situation at all. Anyway, a few years passed, and I was praying one morning, as I do every morning, for my family, my friends, my congregation, for people of the earth. And there are people I pray for specifically. Those are the ones that I see often in my life, and and that I know of. And it occurred to me that I had never, ever prayed for her. I include all my friends and family and, call them by name, but I'd never included her name. And I thought that was kind of strange. And so I wasn't asking her, asking God that she would like me, or that I would like her. I just realized that I had never prayed for her. And so that morning I did what I do for my family and friends and my congregation, and that's that I asked that she be protected, that she be safe, that she be happy, that she be healthy, and that she have an abundant life. Period. Over and out. And so every morning I included her in that. And I had moved away from the place I'd been living. I moved quite a distance away. And 3 months later, I went back. And it turned out that she was invited to my family home for dinner. And she walked through the door and she saw me and she threw up her hands in the air and she said, "It is so good to see you. I've missed you so much." And she came and threw her arms around me. Well, you could have knocked me over with a feather, as the expression goes. I was absolutely stunned, and I couldn't figure out what happened. And it was only after she'd gone, after dinner was over, and we were all kind of safely tucked in for the night, that I really thought about it seriously, and I remembered the only thing that was different was that I started to include her in my prayers. I had no passion behind it. I wasn't asking for me to feel any different or for her to feel any different. I was simply praying for her well-being, and everything changed. Changed to the point where she has been in touch with me in the last little while, just saying she includes me as family in her life and is so happy that I'm in her life, and I'm happy that she's in mine. I've grown to truly love her. So the simplest prayer can make the difference. There was a rock that disappeared from my bowl of light. And as I think about that, I think of what other rocks might be there and how I can make them disappear the same way, just through the simple and but powerful act of prayer. So it's something for us to remember if we're harboring grudges or ill feelings about anyone or anything. There's a way to get rid of it, because why would we not want our lights to shine in a magnificent way rather than being blocked by feelings of anger and all of the upset that we can come up with in our lives? The Hawaiians walk this earth in a different way, as well as the Balinese people. They're different, but they still walk from a place of spirituality. And that's what's so important for us to remember. In the Western world, I seem to notice that spirituality is reserved for special occasions. It's reserved for Sunday services. It's reserved for times when there might be a special meditation or special workshop of some kind. But it's not part of our everyday lives. For a lot of people, it's not. For some of us, it is. But to always come from a place of spirit is so important. And it's not the truth that we have a separate life from spirit. We are only separate if we separate ourselves and separate our thoughts. And so it's really important for us to remember that the truth of who we are, that we're sparks of God's stuff. And if we're born of God's stuff, born with it in us, then we are living spiritual lives, whether we acknowledge it or not. And if we're living spiritual lives, how are we going to express that? How are we going to express that in the best possible way? How are we going to look at everything in our lives? St. Francis of Assisi, of course, was a remarkable, remarkable human being. And his prayer is one that, we have heard for years and years and years. Make me an instrument of your peace. Make me an instrument of your love. That is living from a place of spirit. That's not being divorced of spirit or devoid of spirit in any way. And so our task here on earth is to love as God loves. Think about that, to love as God loves. That is truly unconditional. No matter what you do, You're not going to deter me from loving you, from putting that love of spirit forth from me to you, from shining what is showing from my bowl of light to you. Let's consider that, how we're going to look at people. You know, children are not born hating. They're not born judgmental. They're not born angry. All of the things that we might assign to various feelings or emotions. I believe they're born all-knowing. And probably about once a year I tell a story that I absolutely love, and maybe you've heard it before. Story of a woman named Susie on Salt Spring Island who had a little 3-year-old girl, and she just had a baby boy and brought him home from the hospital, and her little girl said that she needed to be alone with her little brother for a bit. She was a good little girl, so her parents thought that would be okay. And then the little girl went happily about her business, and 2 weeks later she went to her mom again and she said, I really need to be with my little brother again. I need to be alone with him. And so they let her go into the nursery where there was an intercom. And there was a moment of silence, and then they heard her sweet little voice say, I need you to tell me about God because I'm starting to forget. I remember the first time I was told that story, it was by a friend of Susie's, and I just had God bumps. The truth, the wisdom from little children. I've seen it in other little children. I've heard it from other little children. And I was thinking about my own life as I was growing up, and as a little tiny girl, I just felt so connected to God. But I can remember my mother saying to me, oh, don't talk such nonsense, don't talk such foolishness. What will the neighbors think? What will people think? As I think of that now, I think, wouldn't they be charmed by that? Wouldn't they be in awe and wonder if every child had been allowed to speak their truth about God, about spirit, when they were just little tots? Wouldn't life be different for everybody? Thank God we live in a time where we want to listen to little ones, where we want to hear their stories, where we find reassurance in them, where we find something that we are seeking, something that we lost along the way. And it becomes reinforced through those little ones, the little ones who metaphorically even have not had their feet touch the ground because they're still immersed in spirit. They're still so close to God. May we all be like that. You know, we need to remember what it is that we know, that inner knowingness, what is really in our hearts, rather than beliefs. Beliefs have been taught to us. But that knowledge, that inner knowing, it was there from the beginning. And it's time to, just like clearing the rocks from the bowl, it's really time to strip away the false belief systems that we've had and to just turn our faces upward to the sun and allow the rays of God to just wash over us and pour through us. They're already there. God is already there. We need to be reminded, so let us fix upon something that reminds us. I like to think of the sun and its rays and how they just warm us and cover us. How beautiful that can be. We need to remember that God is everywhere, present in everything, because everything is made from source, which is now proven by quantum physics. We never used to be able to prove those things, but now it can be proven. So it's time to listen. And if you don't know anything about it, if we don't know enough about it, to read books on quantum physics, begin to understand that, and God is not that old man in the sky, a punishing, judgmental God. It is an energy, it is an intelligence. It is what forms everything. It's what has formed this earth, everyone and everything in it, and the entire cosmos. It's infinite. And so are we. We are infinite in the sense that we come from spirit. We live as spiritual beings in human form. And when we cast off that form, we go back to spirit again, fully intact. It's so important for us to remember this, to remember that as we were connected to God as little children, That connection is still there when we empty the bowls so that we're just pure light. Let us remember this. Let us remember this week to shine that light wherever we go. To know the importance of that, the value of that. Again, as I said before, to love as God loves. And when we start moving in that direction, we're returning to original innocence. Thanks for being with me today. It's been a pleasure having you here. If you would care to make a donation to our center, please go to our website, which is www.cslvictoria.org. And there's a button there where you can make a donation, or you can e-transfer to welcome@cslvictoria.org, or alternatively, you can send a check to our office, and the office mailing address is on our website as well. If you're on Facebook, check out our webpage, please. And I look forward to meeting you soon if you live in the area. Thanks for joining me today, and God bless you for all that you do, for who you be, and for where you're going, and for the search, the journey that you're on. And so it is. Bye for now.